So when my son was 5, my buddy who played at the Air Force Academy actually convinced me to get him into lacrosse. And I had never played lacrosse and I thought it was crazy, but I actually got my son into it. And now I'm kind of obsessed with it. He's now in 8th grade going on to high school. And one of his buddies is thinking about not playing on the team next year. And he's just a great kid, great athlete. I'm trying to tell him that science shows us by every available survey that people at the end of their life regret things that they didn't do more than things that they did do. So this video is going to be on 5 things that retirees really regret the most, kind of mistakes and how you can avoid them. But it really stems from all these studies that I've just kind of read over time that say that, you know, at the end of life, what do people regret the most? So I'll go over those 5 things that people regret the most right here. And then if you stick around, I'm going to go through 5 things that I've learned just through 10 years of helping people get into retirement and watching hundreds of people at this point retire and truly be happy and live the life that they deserve. One of the first regrets that people have at the end of their life is I just wish I had lived my life for myself in accordance with my values and how I wanted my life to go, rather than, you know, how other people thought that my life should be, or rather than the expectations that people set of me. And this really has to do with just living life in accordance to what drives you. And people had wished they had put that ahead of everything else. The second thing that people regret the most at the end of their life is they wish they hadn't worked so hard. And this is something personally in my own life, I tell myself, put the email down, go take a walk, go watch your kids practice sports, do those types of things. And then I think we all get caught up in it. We go right back to our work. That's not because work's evil, and it's not because we shouldn't work. It's just that work gives us some purpose. Our kids and family give us some purpose. But that is one of the regrets that people have, is that they hadn't worked so hard. Now, obviously, having enough money and finances and security to be able to do that is a great thing. So that's really something that I recommend people focus on, obviously, before you get to the end of your life, so that you can spend that time with the people that matter. The third thing that people have said that they regret at the end of their life is that they had suppressed thoughts and feelings and things like that to keep the peace with people around them as they were going through life. And this is one of those things that studies show actually has kind of the inverse effect. When people keep things inside to try and keep the peace, a lot of the times it builds contention in those relationships, which actually can make those relationships worse and cause more friction. The fourth thing that people think, and this is something, I'm 45 and one of my best friends in the world lives in Texas, and I tell myself every day that I should pick up the phone and call him and joke around, just like I tell myself to close the email and go watch my kids practice sports. That's something that I think people should work on in their own lives, and that's not coming from a place of judgment, that's coming from a place of something that I recognize in my own life. And then the fifth thing that people really realize at the end of their life is that happiness is a choice. And that just comes from being able to ride the highs and lows of life, but be able to kind of separate yourself from what's going on in your life to how you let it impact you and how you let it make you feel. So those are the top 5 things that people regret at the end of their life. And now we can move on to kind of my experience, where I feel like I'm conducting my own laboratory experiment on retirees, on people who've worked really hard to accumulate wealth and get there. And so these will be the 5 things that people regret in their retirement, or advice they would have for people going into retirement. And hopefully by hearing these, you can start to arrange your life and your finances in such a way that you don't have these regrets. And if you keep watching, I'm gonna go through a case study of one of my clients who kind of had one of these regrets or worries and how he overcame that. So these are your go-go years. These are when you transition from saving and building your wealth to go ahead and pulling money back out and enjoying it with your friends and family. This is a client of mine, and you can see they had somewhere around $2 million or so. And then they were going to sell a property, and they were going to have about $3.4 million in retirement. And we got them to retire at age 60. But they were very worried about taking money back out of their plan here. So you can see at age 100, they should still have about $5.8 million, more than enough to pass on to their kids, do gifting, estate planning, and that type of thing. And I said, well, you know, you've been telling me one more year for a couple of years now. What if I could show you, if we came in and I had planned on about $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year for travel for them. And I said, what if we came in and we just put in a college fund, and let's just say you put aside $50,000 per year or $4,200 per month for 4 years. So let's just commit $200,000 of your retirement nest egg to funding college fund for your eventual grandkids. And they said, oh, $200,000, we're worried enough as it is already. There's no way we can do that. But I showed them, even by putting $200,000 aside for their kids and grandkids, they still stood an extremely high chance of dying with a whole bunch of money in the bank and still have $4.3 million left in the bank. So they still stand a very high chance of retiring, living the life they want to live, being able to travel and do all these things, and even fund that college fund for their grandkids if they want. So by seeing that on paper and seeing that we can make that move from growth to income, really gave them the peace of mind and confidence to go ahead and call their employer and put in their papers. So the first piece of advice they have for people is don't wait. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, that's crazy. Why would anyone ever wait to retire? We're working so hard. We have a date on the calendar. I know when I get there, I'm going to pull the plug. I bet you that when that day actually comes, either on your own or with your financial advisor, you might find yourself saying, well, I'm just going to wait one more year. I just need an extra dollar in my 401k before I retire. That is the number one thing that my retirees have said is their biggest regret is don't wait. So why would someone wait? The number one fear, no matter how much money my clients have, and I have clients with $200,000 who just want a guaranteed income, and I have clients with millions of dollars to where you might look at them and think, yeah, of course, pull the plug. That's not the case. It's a big step to take. So the number one fear people have going into retirement is running out of money. So this is where a written retirement income plan, I've actually pushed people into retirement by showing them on paper a written retirement income plan where we can pretty much guarantee that they can retire, be comfortable, and go to bed every night knowing that there's going to be money there in the morning. So the second reason why people would put off retirement, and this might help you avoid that mistake, they find a reason, right? Even if it's not the money, they'll go just one more year. Even if we can show them on paper that they'll have enough money in retirement, they'll say, oh, well, what if the market tanks this year, or the election just happened and who knows what's going to happen, or inflation might creep back up again. Like, let's just take one more year to shore this up. So they might spend that one more year, and it turns out the numbers don't actually change all that much. And I think that just comes from a lack of feeling of security. If people don't know by seeing it on paper that things are going to be okay, that the money's going to be there, then a lot of times, no matter how abstract an idea that is, until they feel safe and secure in doing it and having a level 10 confidence of being able to pull the plug, they won't. And so finally, one of the last reasons is because having children is the greatest thing you can do in this world. And building those relationships and other people, that's all awesome. But people really find value in the work that they do, right? Value in helping other people or in building a business or in being of service to people. And so they'll get up in retirement, and a lot of times they'll say, well, what's my employer gonna do when I leave, or this business that I built? Well, I've watched people at every stage of life, young people building their wealth, older folks getting near the end of their life. There's one thing that all the money in the world and all the business building and all the relationships and everything can't get you back, and that's time. So if you believe that your time is more valuable than anything else, hit the like button or subscribe, and you will be notified anytime I post something up on this channel, and it might help you arrange your finances for just that much more peace of mind. Okay, so on to the second reason why retirees sometimes have regrets. And this is one that I take kind of personally, because this is one where people say, hey, I wish I hadn't listened to my financial advisor. So most financial advisors out there are focused on growth and accumulation and stuffing money in your 401ks. And that's awesome, because over time you can save a lot of money and grow that money up to get to retirement. Now, when people reach retirement, it's time to safeguard those buckets of money and start pulling money back out. And that's a very hard transition to make. And there's not a lot of planning out there surrounding how to make sure we don't lose that bucket of money that we're going to then pull that money back out of. So having, again, a written retirement income plan where you know where that money is going to come from, and the tools in place to make sure that your money's not under threat of a bad stock market or politics or world events or anything like that, that's what brings that confidence and peace of mind and allows people to go ahead and pull the plug and move on to that next phase of life. The third thing that people regret not doing is traveling more. And that doesn't have to mean going to Paris or, sailing around the world. That can be something as easy as one of my favorite clients who has a camper van. They've dedicated themselves to seeing all 50 states. They took a walking tour on the coast of Spain. And now he just tells me the other day that they're gonna go to New Zealand and live in a camper van. Well, when you're 55, 60, 65, all that sounds great, or maybe even a little bit painful. But when you're 70, 75, and 80, those things really kind of go out of reach. So the third regret people have in retirement is not doing that kind of travel they want to do in those go-go years. The fourth thing that people miss out on or regret in retirement is they wish they had pursued interests earlier. Those interests, once you transition from having a job to go to every day, things that now have to drive you and get you up out of bed every morning. So finding those habits and those things where you're going to spend your time is a great opportunity to go ahead and find other things to fill your life with that are going to be a benefit of you, or make an investment in those things. And really having the money there to support those interests is one of the keys to that happy retirement. This really kind of dovetails into another video I did about, I think it's 6 key habits of retirees or something like that. And one of those things was like, be healthy. So if one of your new interests is doing yoga or going for a walk or starting a workout routine or joining a bicycle club, that can be something that can feed you well into retirement and give you better health. And again, that'll relate to the next thing that we talk about here. So the point is to line your money up with your values. Money's nothing other than a tool that allows you to live that life you want to live. So just remember, in retirement, we want those 3 things. Purpose. So those are the things that get you out of bed in the morning. Those are the reasons why you get up. This is the reason why the Okinawans have the longest lifespans of anyone on the planet, I think, is what the research says. And it's because they have ikigai, or a reason to get out of bed every day, a purpose. You want to have people in your life. And this again kind of relates back to making sure you stay in touch with your friends and how valuable those relationships are. And then you want to have passion, or something that really drives you. A lot of people find a lot of meaning in giving back. A lot of people find meaning in teaching or volunteering or coaching or doing things where they're taking their lifetime of expertise and they're passing it on and helping other people with it. And then finally, the 5th and final regret comes from, it's actually kind of reverse engineered out of not a regret, but a really good thing that happened to a client of mine. And so this happened with a client who, before COVID, and people still come into my office, but I had a client who came in and she was going through a divorce and the money was a question mark. And we knew she was going to be kind of okay, but when everything's up in the air, there's just a lot of stress. And again, we finally got her to retire. It was a long divorce, but I was able to show her how the money was going to work. But she was stressed all the time. She wasn't eating right. She wasn't really exercising. So the 5th thing that people really regret is not taking better care of their health, because that relates to everything else you want to do. It relates to still traveling. It relates to seeing your friends, how happy and confident you feel. And so she left, and after about a year, after the divorce was final and we had all the money settled and everything was set in place, she came back into my office, and we had touched base throughout the year, talking, updating her financial plan, doing her investments. But she came back in and she looked like $1 million. And she just said, I made one of my new interests really focusing on my health. And that's going to serve her so well for the rest of her life. So remember, you work hard, but you don't work for work. You work to be able to live the life you want. And that needs to be a life of a reason to get out of bed, people you care about, and experiences you want to have. And so if your financial advisor hasn't worked those things, or isn't talking to you about those things, and doesn't really have the specialized tools in place to help you make sure that you get there, you can go ahead and reach out if I have time, and we can have that conversation and see if there's a little bit better way just to tweak you and give you a little bit more happiness and confidence and peace of mind in this most important time of your life. Thanks.